Season 2 of Beauty in Black didn't just ease you back into the story, it threw you straight into chaos. In just 8 episodes, we get power plays, family betrayals, secret alliances, messy plots, and a brand new queen sitting at the top of a very dangerous empire. With Season 2 Part 2 dropping this Thursday, it's the perfect time to refresh your memory, get fully caught up, and dive back into all the drama and shocking twists that made Season 2 Part 1 unforgettable. So stick around, because we're recapping all 8 episodes of Season 2 Part 1, so you'll be ready for everything that's coming next. Episode 1, Crowned in Beauty. Season 2 of Beauty in Black opens with Horace in the hospital, with Kimmy, Rain, and Sylvie by his bedside. Though Horace is gravely ill and likely nearing the end, he finds satisfaction in knowing the Bellary family is finally under pressure, after they discovered that Kimmy will be stepping in as their new boss and CEO of his company. Horace makes it clear that Kimmy must learn every detail about the business. He instructs Rain to locate Angel and informs Kimmy, Rain, and Sylvie that he has arranged a home for them to stay in. Just outside his hospital room, the Bellary family debates the sudden marriage and what it could mean for their future. When the family finally meets Kimmy, the exchange is tense. Kimmy keeps her guard up, while Mallory pretends to be welcoming. Tension rises as Rain and Kimmy confront the Bellarys, making it clear that Kimmy is now Horace's wife and their superior. Following Horace's instructions, Alex, Roy's driver, was asked to drive Kimmy, Sylvie, and Rain to their new home, while Roy was left to drive himself and Mallory home. During their ride, Mallory taunts Roy about the woman he had been seeing, now married to his father. Their argument escalates in the car, and Mallory holds Roy responsible for the drop in their company shares. Back at the hospital, Horace instructs Varney to add Sylvie, Rain, and Angel to his will, to ensure their protection from the other Bellary family members. Kimmy is wary of Varney and questions Horace about trusting him. In a private conversation, Horace cautions Kimmy against challenging his authority regarding certain people. He admits he does not fully trust Varney and reveals that he consults additional attorneys behind his back, advising Kimmy to do the same. Kimmy updates Horace about Angel, while also letting him know of another pressing issue regarding a car she had stolen, which so happened to have had an old man tucked away in the back who so happens to be the father-in-law of a prominent person, so the police are on high alert for the vehicle. Horace assures Kimmy that he will handle it. Elsewhere, Varney directs Charles to visit Roy's home to handle ongoing issues between him and his brother. Meanwhile, Rain is being released from the hospital. Kimmy confesses her uncertainty about Horace, but Rain encourages her to believe in him, pointing out that he has been generous and selfless toward her. On the drive to their new home, Kimmy and Rain press Alex on a number of things due to his connection with Jules, revealing that they don't like nor trust him. During their several questions, Alex reveals that Body is still alive, shocking both Kimmy and Rain. Rain then asks him to search for Dega. Meanwhile, Norman and Olivia have a conversation while waiting outside Roy's house, as they have decided to meet so Varney can explain to the family about Horace's new decisions. Norman is stunned when he learns Olivia is desperate for money because she has exhausted her own funds. Later, the others arrive at Roy and Mallory's house for a meeting with the family. Varney informs them that Horace has amended his will to include Kimmy and her friends, cutting each family member's share by 10%. Olivia and Norman react angrily and storm out. Roy throws Varney out of the house and accuses Mallory of having an affair with Varney. Mallory fires back, reminding Roy that he was the one involved with Kimmy, who is now his stepmother. The couple continues arguing until Jules steps in to calm them down. Roy is furious at Jules over how the woman he was involved with ended up marrying his father. In an attempt to ease tensions, Jules tells Roy he has someone new lined up for him. Meanwhile, Angel is arrested for stealing Lakeland's car. Officer Traxon informs Jules that Angel is being held at the station, and Jules instructs him to keep Angel locked up until he gets there. Soon after, Mallory contacts Felicia, a dancer from the club, pressing her to share whatever information she knows about Kimmy. Felicia refuses to give in easily, frustrating Mallory. Elsewhere, Varney visits Charles at his home to explain that Horace's new power of attorney arrangement will prevent Charles from maintaining his lavish lifestyle while encouraging him to cut back. Charles appears unbothered, which irritates Varney. Charles eventually persuades Varney to sleep with him, and it works. Varney confesses his love, but Charles rejects him and makes light of his feelings. Hurt and upset, Varney prepares to leave, just as Roy walks in and catches them together. Episode 2. When the Tables Turn. Episode 2 of Beauty in Black Season 2 opens with Kimmy, Sylvie, and Rain exploring their new home. As they walk through the property, they are stunned by its size and the luxury that surrounds them. Meanwhile, Varney attempts to downplay his involvement with Charles when speaking to Roy. Roy walks away with a knowing smirk, clearly amused, which only agitates Varney further. Varney begins to worry that Charles may have intentionally summoned Roy to expose their relationship. Varney confronts Charles with threats, but Charles brushes them off without concern. Later, in the basement, Roy privately instructs Varney to safeguard his shares and make sure Kimmy is removed from Horace's home. In return, he promises to keep quiet about Varney's affair with Charles. Kimmy becomes overwhelmed and admits she feels like she doesn't belong there. But Rain encourages her to embrace the moment. The house butler presents Kimmy with a black card and suggests she shop for clothing that fits her new status and lifestyle. Though Kimmy remains cautious about the sudden change in her life, she decides to place her trust in Horace after Rain urges her to do so. She secretly plans to set aside some emergency money just in case, but she agrees to take advantage of the doors now opening for her. Roy later smugly informs Mallory that Varney and Charles are involved. Elsewhere, Jules assigns Andy as Mallory's new driver, now that Alex has been reassigned to Kimmy. Mallory refuses to accept Andy, but Jules instructs him to continue monitoring her closely. Officer Traxon contacts Alex regarding Angel's arrest and asks him not to inform Jules. Soon after, Jules calls Alex to check on Kimmy and questions where his loyalty lies. Alex assures him of his allegiance, but Kimmy overhears part of the exchange. Kimmy tells Alex she doesn't fully trust him yet, though she's willing to allow him to prove that he's loyal to Horace. Back at the hospital, Horace meets with Harold and instructs him to contact Daniel Lakeland. When Horace speaks with Daniel, he demands that he stop targeting Kimmy over the stolen car incident involving his father-in-law's vehicle, or he will reveal Daniel and Norman's involvement in a money laundering scheme. Daniel agrees to drop the issue against Kimmy, but only if Horace provides someone else to take the blame. Harold proposes using a young man who has already been arrested as the scapegoat. Horace consents, unaware that Harold is referring to Angel. Horace then reprimands Harold for originally hiring Kimmy at the strip club and ominously warns him that his time is running out. Meanwhile, Mallory meets with Felicia and learns the full story about Kimmy, Rain, Angel, and Sylvie. As Mallory leaves, she notices Andy following her and immediately calls Jules with a sharp warning, demanding he meet her at the office right away. On a different note, Kimmy, Rain, and Sylvie head out for a shopping trip. Horace calls to check on Kimmy and asks about Angel. He assures her that the stolen car situation has been resolved and requests that she visit him later. At the jail, Jules meets with Angel and threatens him, saying he will have him deported and even harm his son. Angel stands firm, asks for legal representation, and refuses to cooperate. Furious, Jules orders Traxon to eliminate Angel's son. Later, Kimmy and Rain visit the bank and discover that Kimmy has over $3 million in her account. Without hesitation, she instructs the teller to transfer $500,000 each to Sylvie and Rain. Rain is deeply moved by the gesture. Alex then informs Kimmy that Angel is in jail and urges her not to tell Horace. Despite this, Kimmy immediately calls Horace and informs him of Angel's arrest related to the stolen car. As the truth settles in, Horace connects the dots and realizes that he unknowingly gave the order that led to Angel being targeted. Just as Angel is released from prison, a shooter approaches and fires towards him. Episode 3: Blaze of Beauty. Episode 3 of Beauty in Black Season 2 opens with Horace desperately trying to call off the hit on Angel. Jules informs him that the shooting has already taken place. Horace erupts in anger, furious that Jules carried out the hit without consulting him first. Afterward, Jules heads to the office to meet with Mallory. She presses him about the money laundering operation and asks whether Roy was involved. Jules refuses to give her a direct answer, but Mallory makes it clear that Felicia must be kept out of the situation because she still has use for her. At the hospital, Norman visits Horace in an attempt to make peace. He opens up emotionally, confessing how their father always favored Horace and treated him as less than. Norman says he already lost his wife and fears he is about to lose his brother, too. Horace responds by revealing that he knows about Norman's affair with Olivia and his attempts to take control of the company. The argument intensifies as Horace accuses Norman of secretly laundering money through the club without his knowledge. Mocking his brother, Horace warns Norman to prepare himself for prison, which deeply unsettles him. Meanwhile, Charles contacts Varney, offering to speak to Roy on his behalf. Varney refuses the help, insisting that he wants to handle the situation personally. Mallory later meets with Varney and asks him to take her to a restaurant where they can speak privately. At the same time, Rain prepares to head back to the club. She tells Kimmy she doesn't want the $500,000 that was transferred to her. Instead, Rain asks for control of the club, confident she can run it successfully. Kimmy agrees, but asks Rain to persuade Sylvie to enroll in college so she can escape the chaos surrounding them. Despite Varney's wishes, Charles still goes to see Roy, and their meeting quickly turns confrontational. Roy belittles Charles because of his sexuality. Charles warns Roy to leave Varney alone, explaining that Varney has a darker side and could retaliate in a dangerous way. Roy ignores the warning. That evening, Norman informs Jules that Howard exposed the truth about their laundering scheme and that Horace is now fully aware. Norman tells Jules he intends to handle Howard himself. He later visits Howard's home and sits down with him and his wife for a tense conversation. Meanwhile, Horace calls Kimmy, and Sylvie speaks with him about a cancer treatment center in Thailand that might help him. At the restaurant, Mallory confronts Varney about his feelings for Charles. Varney admits he never planned to come out, but Mallory reveals that since Roy knows about his sexuality, the entire family likely does too. Varney confesses that Roy has threatened him, but Mallory advises him to outmaneuver Roy by being even more ruthless. Olivia suddenly inserts herself into their meeting. Clearly intoxicated, she begins rambling, and Mallory attempts to get her to leave. During a car ride, Rain asks Alex to track down Dega. To gain her trust, Alex contacts Officer Traxon, who informs him that Angel has been unalived. Back at Howard's house, Norman questions him about leaking information about their illegal activities. Howard insists he never told anyone, not even his wife, but Norman remains doubtful. Before leaving, Norman casually thanks Howard for the visit. However, he secretly leaves behind a package containing a ticking bomb. As Norman drives away, Howard's home explodes in flames, bringing the episode to a dramatic close. Episode 4: The Next Chapter. Episode 4 of Beauty in Black Season 2 opens with Delinda's son, who is also named Horace, arriving at the club and attempting to get inside. Officer Traxon quickly throws him out. Inside, a dancer named Dustin chats with Andy about Charles's wealth, and the two begin plotting how they might be able to rob him. Elsewhere, Rain informs Kimmy that Horace ordered Angel to be unalived. Enraged, Kimmy immediately starts packing, determined to leave. Rain asks her to hold off until she returns. At the hospital, doctors inform Horace that there is nothing more they can do to save him. Horace brings up the treatment center in Thailand, and the doctor responds that the Eastern Medicine Facility may offer some hope. Kimmy tries convincing Sylvie to come with her and calls Rain again, warning her not to trust Alex. Back at the restaurant, an intoxicated Olivia causes a public disturbance. Mallory and Varney attempt to calm her down, but Olivia tells them to leave her alone. Outside, she catches Mallory and Varney speaking privately. Olivia asks Varney to take her home and tells Mallory to go separately. When Mallory refuses, Olivia accuses her of being unfaithful to her son. Mallory insists on accompanying them and tells Varney to drive Olivia home. He then speaks with her sister and finally confesses everything she endured and how she became entangled with the Bellary family. Meanwhile, Jules is at Harold's house. He calls Norman, concerned about the commotion caused by the house fire and hoping it cannot be traced back to him. Jules relays to Norman that Delinda's son had been threatening to sell the club. That night, Angel makes his way to the hospital to see Horace Bellary, who is shocked and relieved to find him alive. Horace confesses that he was the one who ordered Angel's execution. Furious, Angel confronts him, but Horace tells him that if he wants to survive, he should remain by his side. At Olivia's home, she asks Varney to escort her inside. Once in the house, Olivia makes advances toward Varney and begins undressing him, but Mallory arrives just in time to intervene. At the club, Charles purchases rugs from Dustin. Back at home, Kimmy prepares to leave for good. Rain urges her to slow down and think clearly, reminding her of how shaken Sylvie already is. She also reveals that Horace instructed security to prevent Kimmy and Rain from leaving the estate alone. The three decide to wait until nightfall when security shifts change. Later that evening, Kimmy, Rain, and Sylvie quietly sneak out and get into a car. They attempt to drive away from the Bellario estate quickly, but Kimmy struggles to control the vehicle. She veers off the road and is suddenly blocked by another car waiting outside. The episode ends with Horace approaching Kimmy's car and calmly asking her if she was planning to go somewhere. Episode 5. Hunter's Prey. Episode 5 of Beauty and Black Season 2 opens with Horace intercepting Kimmy, Sylvie, and Rain after their failed attempt to escape. Once back inside the house, Angel recounts everything that happened from the moment he was arrested. Horace is stunned to learn that Kimmy tried to run because she didn't trust him, and he shuts down emotionally, refusing to speak to her. Elsewhere, Olivia calls Roy to inform him that Mallory has been involved with Varney. Roy responds by telling his mother that Varney has actually been seeing Charles and that the two are romantically involved. Olivia struggles to believe what she's hearing. Meanwhile, Rain asks Alex to drive her to the club. Elsewhere, Varney drops Mallory off and requests that Varney go to Charles's house, which happens to be nearby. Varney hesitates, worried about Horace finding out about him staying overnight at Charles's house, but Mallory persuades him to stay the night. At home, Roy confronts Mallory about Olivia's accusations regarding her and Varney. Mallory brushes him off and heads to the shower, only for Roy to follow her and attempt to flirt. She ridicules him and firmly rejects his advances. Frustrated, Roy decides to visit the strip club to find company. At the same time, Dustin is with Charles when Olivia calls him to question his relationship with Varney. Charles dismisses the conversation and avoids answering her directly. Back at the mansion, Angel is shocked to learn how Kimmy ended up inside Horace's estate and that she is now married to him. Kimmy clarifies that her marriage to Horace was strategic, meant to secure control of his empire, and that there are no romantic feelings involved. Kimmy then asks Angel to remain close to Horace during his final days, even in a romantic sense, since he is dying. Angel resists the idea, but their conversation is interrupted when Horace summons Kimmy. Alex drops Rain off at the strip club, where Felicia compliments her recent cosmetic surgery. Rain questions Felicia about Dega and discovers that Shake Shake has been persuading dancers to undergo illegal procedures since Body is no longer around. Rain pulls one of the dancers aside and promises to accompany her to the clinic later that evening. Meanwhile, in his room, Horace explains to Kimmy that their plan will only succeed if she fully trusts him. He tells her that he chose her as his successor because she is intelligent and capable. Kimmy admits she panicked after hearing about Angel. Horace instructs her to prepare for Sylvie to relocate, explaining that Sylvie is a vulnerability to their strategy. He reveals that he has protected Kimmy, Angel, and Rain through his power of attorney, but Sylvie does not have the same protection. Before leaving for treatment, Horace invites everyone to breakfast. He gives Kimmy a ledger containing important information to help her navigate the office the next day. As Horace and Kimmy discuss business matters, Roy arrives at the club in search of a dancer. He chooses several women and takes them into a private room. Elsewhere, Varney and Charles argue, allowing Dustin to scope out the expensive belongings inside the house. Charles accuses Varney of invading his privacy and forces him to leave. Dustin offers Charles drugs to distract him and casually asks whether Varney is still in the house. Back at the club, Felicia entertains Roy in a private room along with two other dancers. Rain asks Alex to drive her to the hotel where the dancer plans to meet the illegal surgeon, who turns out to be Dega. At the motel, Rain is furious and vows to confront Dega for the damage done to her body. Alex offers to handle it for her, but Rain insists she is capable of fighting her own battles. The episode ends with Rain and Alex arriving at the motel room where Dega, Shake Shake, and the dancer are waiting. Episode 6. The Enemy of My Enemy. Episode 6 of Beauty in Black Season 2 opens with Rain aggressively knocking on the motel door, where Dega is preparing to perform surgery on a young club dancer named Adelaine. Rain confronts Dega, accusing her of nearly killing her in the past. The confrontation quickly turns physical, with Alex standing watch. The fight escalates, and Alex ends up killing both Dega and Shake Shake. However, when he moves toward Adelaine, Rain stops him, reminding him that she is only 18. Rain gives Adelaine money and urges her to leave town immediately and return home. Elsewhere, Dustin quietly slips out of bed while Charles lies unconscious. He calls Andy, who tells him he'll arrive the next morning with his truck so they can rob Charles in broad daylight. Meanwhile, Roy spends the night with Felicia and is taken by her bold personality. During their time together, Roy asks about Kimmy and becomes irritated when Felicia brings up Kimmy's marriage to a wealthy older man. Later that night, Alex takes Rain back to his apartment so she can clean up. While there, Alex worries that Adelaine might report them. Their conversation shifts to how Dega, Body, and Shake Shake destroyed the lives and bodies of numerous women. Alex and Rain also discuss Angel. Alex admits that Angel resented him because of a past altercation where Alex beat him up. At the same time, Roy attempts to enter Horace and Kimmy's mansion. He asks security to let him inside, but they refuse and tell him to leave. Kimmy overhears the exchange and confronts Roy. Their argument intensifies as Roy speaks disrespectfully about Horace, even saying he would disgrace his father's grave once he dies. Horace appears and hears the remarks. Furious, he orders the guards to restrain Roy and humiliates him in front of everyone as punishment. Horace then asks Kimmy to take him back inside, while Roy is forced to walk home in disgrace. The following morning, Norman visits Olivia. He reminds her about the upcoming meeting Horace arranged for the Bellary stakeholders to formally meet Kimmy. Olivia questions Norman's sudden kindness, and they begin discussing their shared resentment toward Horace. Olivia admits she is deeply in debt and intends to reclaim everything from Kimmy once Horace passes away. Norman informs her that, according to their late father's will, she no longer has any remaining funds. Upset by this revelation, Olivia throws Norman out. Meanwhile, Kimmy worries that if Horace survives treatment, he may no longer need her or her friends. She tells Rain about Roy's confrontation the night before. Rain asks whether Kimmy feels prepared to face the company staff. Kimmy surprisingly admits she feels confident about showing up at the office. Still, she senses Rain may be hiding something. Elsewhere, Mallory discovers Roy's soiled clothes in the bathroom from the previous night and is stunned to learn that Horace has required all staff members to be present for Kimmy's first official day at the company. Horace prepares to leave for the treatment center and asks Angel to look after Kimmy in his absence. He tells Angel that his debts have been cleared and that he is free to leave whenever he chooses. Angel asks if he can remain at the mansion instead. The two share a heartfelt moment, and Horace gives Angel one of his watches. Before departing, Horace speaks privately with Kimmy and says his goodbye. At Charles's home, Varney finds Dustin lingering around and tells him to leave. When Charles learns that Varney is trying to send Dustin away, he insists that Dustin stay. Varney reminds Charles about the important meeting, but Charles refuses to listen. Alex drives Horace to the airport, where Horace instructs him to keep an eye on everything while he is gone. Back at the mansion, Mallory arrives to speak with Kimmy and claims she is looking forward to seeing her at the office. She attempts to belittle Kimmy and her friends, but Kimmy stands her ground and tells her they'll settle things at the office. At that same moment, Andy arrives outside Charles's house. Dustin lets him inside, and Andy's men attack Charles. After a brutal fight, Charles manages to break free. He grabs a weapon and shoots Dustin and the two attackers, ending the episode in chaos. Episode 7. Gloves Off. Episode 7 of Beauty in Black opens with Charles desperately calling Varney for help, but Varney ignores the call. Charles then reaches out to Roy, who is distracted, busy flirting with Felicia. Charles tries to explain that he was attacked, but Roy keeps cutting him off, ranting about their upcoming meeting with Kimmy at the office. Meanwhile, Felicia is in bed with Traxon, and the two discuss how Roy is essentially under Traxon's influence. Traxon receives a call from work reporting a double homicide at the same motel where he is staying with Felicia. At the same time, Angel speaks with Horace mid-flight and asks him to have Kimmy return his calls. Horace advises Kimmy to arrive fashionably late to the office meeting, knowing his family despises waiting. He tells her to update him once the meeting concludes. He encourages her to show his family exactly who she is and wishes her success. Elsewhere, Traxon informs Jules that Dega and Shake Shake have been found dead. Jules learns that Rain had visited the club to meet Adelaine, the dancer who had been with them and is now missing. Jules suggests Alex may have assisted Rain, but Traxon insists Alex would never do that. Jules orders Traxon to locate Adelaine. He also finds out that Roy slept with Felicia, which clearly irritates him. Traxon later warns Alex that Jules suspects him and advises him to keep a low profile for a while. Kimmy prepares for her first official day at work and leaves with Alex. After she departs, Sylvie heads to the stables. Rain grows concerned about Sylvie, but Angel assures her he will watch over her. At the office, Olivia and Norman speculate about Horace's motives. Norman reveals that Horace had dealings with a Latino man whom he once ordered to be unalive. Back at the mansion, Angel and Sylvie have a conversation, but something Sylvie says about Angel's connection to Horace frustrates him. Sylvie then meets Glenn, the stable hand, and they bond over their shared interest in horses. Glenn reveals that he is Jules' son and offers to help her ride. Meanwhile, Jules confronts Roy about showing up at the club unexpectedly. Roy demands that Felicia be sent to the office because he wants to hire her as his assistant. Jules resists, but Roy insists. Angel goes to the garage and speaks with Whitman, requesting the keys to one of Horace's cars. On the way to the office, Horace calls Kimmy and warns her to be cautious around Mallory. Angel receives a credit card from the butler, James, as per Horace's request, and is shocked to discover it has no spending limit. Angel takes the car out for a drive, while Mallory arrives at the office ahead of Kimmy. In the office, Mallory meets with Varney and tells him she plans to act pleasantly toward Kimmy. She becomes irritated when she learns that the entire staff is gathered in the lobby to welcome Kimmy. Back at the mansion, Rain wakes up and realizes Sylvie is still at the stables. She rushes over to check on her. Meanwhile, Kimmy arrives at the office to applause from the staff. Mallory joins the gathering and raises a toast in Kimmy's honor. She introduces Kimmy to the team, but Kimmy requests to be addressed as Mrs. Bellary. She then has the staff wait while she heads to her office, asking Roy to escort her. Mallory is caught off guard and dismisses the staff. The episode ends with Rain arriving at the stables and discovering Glenn in a compromising situation with Sylvie. Before anything can be explained, Rain shoves Glenn over the balcony. Episode 8. Hold the Pleasantries. Episode 8 of Beauty in Black Season 2 opens with Sylvie telling Rain that what happened between her and Glenn was consensual. The two rush downstairs to check on him and find Glenn lying face down on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. Sylvie is too shaken to think clearly. Rain attempts to call Angel for help. Meanwhile, Horace arrives in Italy, rather than Thailand, for his treatment. A doctor evaluates him and reviews his medical history. Rain contacts Alex to tell him what happened, but Alex is with Traxon and has to speak carefully. Using coded language, he tries to hint that Glenn is Jules' son while calming Rain down. Rain, however, begins to panic. Elsewhere, Angel visits Yolanda, who is stunned to see him alive. He offers her money, but she refuses, saying he brings danger to her and their son. She tells Angel to leave without seeing Angel Jr. Back at the office, Mallory grows increasingly irritated that Kimmy and Roy are still alone together. Inside the office, Kimmy tells Roy she is actively searching for grounds to fire him. She deliberately provokes him by implying that Horace outperforms him in every way. Mallory interrupts, urging Kimmy to join the meeting, but Kimmy refuses to rush the conversation. Olivia also becomes frustrated and pressures Kimmy to begin. Eventually, Kimmy starts the meeting while Horace secretly watches through security cameras. He attempts to guide her through an earpiece, but Kimmy disconnects the call, fearing someone might notice. During the meeting, Kimmy reveals that the company is deeply in debt and exposes fraudulent third-party agencies created by members of the Bellary family to siphon money. She proposes securing partnerships with Chinese firms to stabilize the company's finances. By the end of the meeting, Kimmy emerges successful, while the Bellary family is visibly furious. Afterward, Jules meets with Kimmy, and the conversation quickly becomes tense. Kimmy makes it clear that she is aware of far more about his operations than he might think. Jules pushes back, telling her that no matter what she believes she knows, he has safeguards in place to protect his interests. He also reminds her that the Bellary family is firmly under his control, warning her not to make the mistake of going after him. Kimmy calmly responds that she isn't concerned about his threats. She explains that her current position means nothing compared to the suffering he once put her through. To drive her point home, Kimmy calls Jules's wife in front of him, making sure he understands that she has already met her. The gesture is a clear message. She now has the ability to expose everything Jules has been involved in if she chooses. Alex drives Kimmy home. On the way, she updates Horace on how the meeting unfolded. When Kimmy returns, Alex rushes toward the stables where Rain is waiting. He informs Rain that Glenn is still alive and decides they need to take him to the hospital. Kimmy arrives and sees Glenn, stunned by the sight. Elsewhere, Varney visits Charles only to find him using a chainsaw to dismember the bodies of Dustin and the other attackers. Varney becomes sick and attempts to leave, but Charles follows him. The episode ends with additional intruders arriving at Charles's house, threatening to unalive both Varney and Charles. And that wraps up Beauty in Black Season 2, Part 1. From Kimmy stepping into power, to the Bellary family plotting from every direction, to secrets, betrayals, and chaos at every turn, these first 8 episodes set the stage for what's about to come next. If you made it to the end, drop a comment and let me know which episode had the craziest twist for you. And if you're ready for Part 2, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next recap, breakdown, and all the drama still to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.